Well, welcome, Trevor, to the Gay Therapy Center.
Hi, Adam. How are you?
I'm great. It's good to have you here. This is Trevor Kuhn, and I became interested in his work when I found him on Instagram. And I felt he was talking about some hard truths about dating, specifically gay dating, that I hadn't seen other people talk about. So I wanted everyone to hear his perspective. We all know gay dating is one of the hardest things we may ever do. And the more perspectives and support we get, the better. So I'm going to jump right in with Trevor.
Yeah.
Uh, he's a gay dating coach and love coach based in Manhattan. He's got a lot
Yes.
to say. So the first question
Yeah.
is, I've heard you speak a lot about the culture of gay men, particularly the beauty culture that we find in gay communities. And I'm curious about how you see that impacting men who are dating.
Yeah. I really I see it at an increasing level. The and of course with the rise of social media and the ability to, create an online persona, there's this high focus on aesthetics.
Mm.
And, you said beauty. I mean, that encompasses, aesthetics and fitness. And, I'm all for being healthy and fit and presenting that healthy version of yourself. But it becomes like at some point it becomes objectification. And I worry, I'm not in touch as much with, young people, and people under 25, but this is what they've grown up on, right? The imagery. And I mean, gay men in general, we've always had sexual imagery in our culture, but I think it's becomes this expectation that you have got to be hot in order to
Mhm.
find somebody, attract somebody, and it's leading to high levels of insecurity and self-esteem issues. And so I don't want this to sound like doom and gloom, like there's no way around this. But I do think it impacts the dating scene negatively when we focus so much on aesthetics as like the number one driver in attraction.
I see. So
Yeah.
you notice that among some gay men and some of your clients that they're focusing on how attractive is this potential date rather than perhaps some other attributes. Is that what
Yeah,
I'm?
I mean, I think with my clients, they understand that attraction goes much deeper than the physical, and they're looking at ways of creating meaningful connection, which I think is what we need to get to. We need to see beyond the superficial and connect with people who have like interests, who share our values.
Mhm.
And of course, there needs to be a physical attraction, yes, but without putting certain archetypes of gay men on a pedestal at one, like that's what I need to achieve, or two, that's what I need to go for in terms of
Mhm.
if I can have a boyfriend like that, like I'll be happy.
Right, right. I mean, I think we all love beauty. Who doesn't love beautiful men? Of course.
Yeah.
But if we're sort of too focused on it, it may speak to some insecurity within ourselves, right?
Yeah.
We may not feel comfortable with somebody who's not a 10, or we're not seen with somebody who's a 10 or a 9 on some scale.
Yeah. Well, and I've talked about this with friendships too. We do, and I think growing up, like I obviously as a gay man, I knew who the attractive men were. And without even, being out or knowing that I was gay, like I was attracted to the good-looking boys in high school.
Mhm.
And so, I don't have an answer for solving that at an adolescent level, but we have a certain maturity now, when you enter your 30s and 40s. I hope you can see beyond those, high school, college, crushes or whatnot, and realize, oh, people are so much more complex and dynamic than what we see on the surface.
Mhm.
And there's so much to be attracted to about a person other than the size of their muscles or, some other physical attributes.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the hotness of someone you're dating can grow, right? As you get to know them, they become often hotter to you because
Oh
you're
yeah.
seeing beyond just the physical and you're seeing part of their soul. And that can be
Well,
very sexually exciting.
well, that's a good point because not only can your attraction to someone grow like physically, you get to know someone and you're like, oh, I really wasn't that drawn to them at first, like physically, but they grew on me and we've connected physically and we've connected emotionally and they're so hot to me, right? You can get that, but you can also separate that hotness from um, you know, the the visual manifestation of that,
Mhm.
for lack of a better word. Because what happens is you can be with someone who everyone thinks is hot, but that's what everyone else sees. Oh,
Mhm.
yeah, he's got such a
Mhm.
hot boyfriend, or that couple's so hot. And that's all people see because they're only looking with their eyes. They're not part of that relationship. And even if you're with someone that you thought was hot at the beginning, that suddenly that hotness becomes almost like a background feature. You're like,
Mhm.
wow, that's cool that I'm with this guy who's good looking, but that's not what I see every day. And that's
Mhm.
what other people see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it can be, for some people, a little vulnerable to go beyond hotness, right? It's maybe a little scary to go, oh, I like that guy, but maybe he doesn't quite meet some beauty standard that I think other people find important.
Yeah.
Can I make that leap? And it might just feel a little scary, to do that.
Yeah. It's can be scary, but it's also, if you think of it as limiting, and like we already as gay men, bi men, if men who, want to be with men, it's already a limiting existence. So if we are now weighing people based on their attractiveness, and oftentimes it's what we think their attractiveness is as perceived by others.
Yeah.
Like,
Yes.
and so it's hey, I want arm candy, you know, like this is the whole concept of a trophy wife. Like that bleeds into our culture as well. But it doesn't translate into fulfillment or happiness.
Mhm. Yeah.
And so we have to really think, am I limiting myself here by putting beauty on a pedestal? Because there's plenty of guys who aren't tens who would be tremendous partners.
Mhm.
And I'm not seeing that because I'm laser focused. It doesn't have to be a 10, right, Adam? But there is like sort of a hierarchy like that's sort of permeates gay society.
Yeah, I'm glad we're talking about this because it is pretty prevalent. Related to this, you've also spoken about spark and chemistry and what that means in a new relationship or in dating, and sometimes the focus on that. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yes. So I actually did a whole podcast episode about this spark. Modern Gaze is a podcast led by a couple in Melbourne, Australia, and we talked about this. They're married, and one of them's from Los Angeles. But anyway, we talked about that spark and how it can fade and often does. Probably 100% of the time. That's that initial spark that people feel where they're like the butterflies and love at first sight or whatever you want to call it. That doesn't last. Like
Hmm.
a spark is almost, it's a moment. And, whether it lasts a few weeks or a few months during a honeymoon phase, what you and I just addressed a few minutes ago was someone might become more hot over time. Someone also might become less hot over time. It depends on the connection.
Hmm.
That initial spark isn't necessarily the connection. It's
Hmm.
just an idea. And
Hmm.
I really think that I will say a lot of my clients are like, oh, I just haven't felt anything with someone for a while. I
Hmm.
don't know, like it's been years, or I haven't felt anything since my last relationship. And like that's a whole nother topic, right? Because you're basically comparing any future connections with that connection that you knew was strong. But we have to, like human relationships are very complex, obviously, you know that. And if we're just like if you're only looking for beauty, if you're only looking for a spark and you're putting that as the marker of whether or not something could work out, there you go, limiting yourself again.
Mm-hmm.
Give yourself time to get to know someone. And if there's nothing there, there's nothing there,
Mm-hmm.
right? But you don't necessarily know that from one encounter just because you didn't feel something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this one's personal to me because there have been situations where men have said, "Well, I'm not feeling the spark after a date or two."
Mm,
This gets
yeah, yeah,
um,
and yeah, I get that. We've all been on both sides of that, I
mhm.
would say. And and there's no forcing anything. It's just explore it and see. Like, and also ask yourself, what does that mean? Because I've asked clients that too. What when you say spark, what do you mean? And sometimes it's, oh, endless conversation. Sometimes it's, oh, just like this sort of fiery feeling that I just like want to jump their bones. And
Mm,
it's like, okay, so it could be physical, it could be um intellectual stimulation. It's something that you feel um that isn't the same for everybody.
mhm,
So ask yourself, oh, what am I looking for?
mhm.
And then, explore that and see if there's something there, even if it's not there on that first date. Um, it might develop.
Right.
Yeah.
As you say that, I get the sense like we could be chasing excitement. Spark
Mm,
equals excitement. We love excitement, but are we chasing excitement? And I think that can be a distraction sometimes because excitement isn't a steady state of life, right? It wanes.
yeah.
Hmm.
Oh, totally. That we were constantly seeking distraction, and
Distraction. Yeah.
and we want human beings want signs, right? That like that they should go forth. They're looking for the green light.
Hmm.
And if it's not obviously green, they're just like, oh, no, not going, not not a safe place. There's no excitement here. I'm gonna keep looking. I'm gonna retreat. And that's all good and well, but if that becomes a pattern that you consistently retreat or consistently you're looking for something more or better, then that needs to be looked at,
Hmm.
whether with a coach or a therapist. Like patterns can last forever if they're unchecked.
Hmm. So many great relationships, I do think, start with a slow burn. So maybe not with
Mhm.
an immediate spark, but just a slow burn, and with just a little bit more patience, you get to the place where you really want to be, which is
Yeah.
in love and committed. Yeah.
In love. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. Which is um, sort of something that you have to commit to before even going down the path of seeking a partner, right?
Commit to love. Is that what you're saying?
Or you're committing to creating love with somebody. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that phrase. Actually, that makes me think of another question I wanted to ask you. I think you've heard you said love is a decision.
Mm,
You want to kind of expand that a little more?
yeah. Love is not something that happens to us. And I think that we often look, and I used to think, oh, I just want to fall in love with somebody. And I
Mhm.
hear that quite often. And maybe that's from, you know, fairy tale books in Hollywood. And there's this idea that we just fall in love. It's out of our control, right? This person showed up and boom.
Mhm.
Then we're going through life waiting for someone to show up and we're not taking an active part in that. So I think when you are dating somebody and you're thinking, oh, I don't know if I love them, maybe it's time for you, maybe it's time for you to meditate on it or journal about it and ask yourself, what does love mean? How do I know if I'm in love with somebody? Like at the end of the day, I really believe that it is a decision. Like once you decide something, it starts to sort of manifest.
Hmm.
If you decide, oh, I don't love this person, then it's probably not going to happen. Just like if you decide that you were poor and you're never gonna, you know, you're not gonna make money, right? I'm never gonna be rich. You know, it's unless it falls on my lap, a bunch of money. Like, well, you're not going to be rich. You know, if you're like, oh, well, unless I fall in love, which again, like I have no way of creating that. It's just going to happen to me. Well, if it doesn't happen to me, then I won't be in love. So it can be tricky if someone's not in my brain right now, um but I really look back at my past relationships too, and I think of the times where I thought I was in love versus the times where I've decided that I am in love. And it's not just like something that happened by chance.
Hmm.
In my like even my current relationship, like my partner and I have created a loving partnership, and that was a decision of mine early on. Like
Hmm.
even a few months in, I was like, I don't know, does it feel like it did last time? And I was falling into that trap, and I saw it happening, and I said, that's a distraction. What if you were to decide that this person that you say you care about, what if you decide that you love them? You can always decide not to love somebody. You can decide not to love a family member that you've told your entire life you love them. And then so why wouldn't it work in the reverse? That's sort of the way I look at it.
Yeah.
Make it happen.
As you're saying this, I'm thinking to fall in love, to love someone is a verb, right? It's more active. It's something you have some control, not complete, but some control over.
Yeah.
It's empowering to think about it rather than it just comes from a whim, right? Or just sort of
Uh,
by happenstance. You've got a little more control over the process than I think we normally think about, primarily because I think we're very impacted by romantic comedies and fairy tales.
mhm,
It's very powerful in our culture.
totally.
Next topic, top or bottom? How is that impacting gay men in the dating scene?
It's this is different for everybody. Once again, I, and there was also verse and
Hmm.
sides. This came
Hmm.
up. I did a dating workshop for men over 50 recently, and that came up. Someone said, "Oh, don't forget about sides," and everyone's like, "Sides? What's that?" Um, in essence, these are sexual roles that I I think I think they are chosen. I'm not an expert on sexual roles. Okay, I'm not a sex therapist, and sex comes up in my work, but in essence, I always want to approach it with a sense of flexibility and openness and curiosity. And so when I see guys dating and they say, "Oh, I'm a bottom and I can't seem to find a top," or there's I was dating this guy and then he changed his mind about his preferences and we broke up. Like I see this happening and I say, well, sex is definitely a important part of a relationship, but it's not everything. And there's all different ways to explore intimacy, and people's preferences and desires evolve.
Yeah.
So to from the very get-go to say I'm only going to date a top or a bottom. I need my relationship to be an exact match. Why do we need an exact match when it comes to sexual roles? But we can be flexible everywhere else. So I say, look at that, because again, we're already limited. And I don't know what the percentages are, but let's say we're 50-50, which is not, because we have more than just tops and bottoms. We have a lot of people who are verse, and maybe they have the freest reign over the dating pool. And then we have people that don't want to participate in anal sex, and they're referred to as sides. And so it comes down to, what do you want? What do you see as possible in your relationship?
Hmm.
And are you limiting yourself? While I do fully understand that it would be so much easier if you could just choose one and have the the your counterpart, right?
Mhm.
That would be so much easier.
Mhm.
But again, human relationships are complicated and dynamic and ever evolving.
Mhm.
But that, yeah, I'm curious what you think about this, because I talk about this a lot in the context of being flexible and not limiting yourself.
Well, one thing I know, and all sex therapists know, is the mind is, of course, the biggest sexual organ we have, and it's
Mhm.
very malleable. We think we're in a narrow category. We think we only think one ways, but with a
Mhm.
little openness, a little bit of breath, a little bit of expansiveness, a little bit of
Yeah,
letting go of fears, there's a lot more possible for us in all parts of our lives, including sex. And
totally.
yeah, and I think kind of what we're saying here in this talk is try to be a little more expansive, try to open up a little bit more, not to shut down so quickly when you're dating somebody.
Yeah, and I even saw on a forum or a social media post once, it might have been Twitter, I can't remember. Uh, People would talk about their relationships, and I've seen people commenting. A lot of people like to comment on others' relationships and what they should do. And I saw someone comment that, well, if your roles are changing, that means you're not compatible anymore. So you should essentially break up and find someone who you're compatible with. And I say, so you just want to go through life dropping people that we were compatible with at one point, and suddenly, because there's a new desire, we're no longer compatible, out the window, like start fresh. And I don't think that's the right approach either. I think that we're never going to be 100% satisfied with every aspect of the relationship. And where it comes back to that commitment. I commit to finding someone to create love with. And once you find that person, then we are committing to building a life together. This isn't about marriage, but it's, through the ups and downs, through
Mhm.
many difficulties and challenges and joys. And, there's going to be an evolution, and we're riding this ride together. Ultimately, we don't know what the future holds, but when it comes down to it, if it's just, at the beginning, again, we look at the beginning and I say, like, let's be flexible here, because we might most guys, let's just look at it this way, Adam, and most guys haven't been in a relationship longer than a year. And that's not being conservative. And I say, okay, because you're not looking into the future, and you're seeing all this stuff that isn't working early on, and you're jumping ship because you're hoping to find out that there's going to be someone that everything works with, everything's perfect. So it's not going to be that way. Not 5 years in, not 20 years in. You
Mhm.
will become different people.
Yeah.
And that also can be true for your sexual
Mhm.
uh, preferences, roles, etc.
Yeah. Well, I have
Yeah.
a whole long list of questions for you, Trevor. We're not going to get to them.
Okay.
Keep this short and respect everybody's time.
Mhm.
Tell everybody if they want to learn more about what you do and how you do it, how they should reach you.
Yeah. So I'm Love Daddy Trev on Instagram. So you can follow me there if you're not already. And you can also go to my website, lovedaddy.co. There is a message box there. My email is also listed. And you can also schedule an initial call with me. Um, as so if I do offer 3 or 6 months of relationship coaching. But if you want to just do one session, you can purchase that through my website, and we can kind of get a feel for what coaching more beyond that would look like, depending on what your goals are and what you're struggling with. Yeah.
Right. All right. Well, I'm glad we did this. I think you have a lot of valuable information to share with gay men. So thanks for coming on and talking to us all today.
Thanks for having me, and happy anniversary once again.
Thanks. All right. Take care. Bye bye.
Bye.